The African savanna was quiet, too quiet, and then, out of nowhere, a lioness, furious, trembling, and desperate, sprinted straight toward a lone ranger named Kalen. She wasn't hunting. She wasn't attacking. She wasn't roaring in dominance. She was begging. Begging with soft, broken growls. Begging as she lowered her head and touched his boot with her muzzle. Kalen froze, confused. Lionesses don't beg. Lionesses don't plead. But what he saw in her eyes stopped his breath cold. Fear. Pure fear. Not for herself, but for something else. And moments later, when she led him into the tall grass, Kalen realized why. And nothing could have prepared him for what he found waiting there. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe to Beyond Instinct for more emotional wildlife stories. Your support helps these stories travel worldwide. Now, let's go back to where it all began. The sun had barely risen when Kalen began his morning patrol across the vast plains of the Umphany Reserve. He had seen lions his entire life, but none of them behaved like this one. The lioness emerged from the grass, panting, pacing in circles, and letting out deep, rattled moans. Her fur was covered in dust, as if she had been running for hours. She looked exhausted and terrified. "Easy, girl. It's okay," Kalen whispered, raising both hands slowly. But she didn't want distance. She moved closer, too close, brushing her head against him, nudging him, pulling him, urging him to follow. Every instinct in Kalen told him something was wrong. Lionesses are protectors, warriors, mothers. They fight before they fear. So for one to be this frantic, this desperate, something unimaginable was happening. She ran ahead, then stopped, ran again, then looked back to ensure he followed. Her tail flicked anxiously, paws pounding the earth like thunder. Kalen kept pace until they reached a dense patch of brush, thick, shadowy, and quiet enough to swallow sound. Then she let out a soft, heartbroken cry. And that's when Kalen saw it. A cub. A tiny lion cub lying motionless on the ground, chest rising unevenly, breath shallow and sharp. Its small paw was caught in an illegal snare, a steel loop digging deep into the flesh. The lioness lowered herself beside her baby, licking it helplessly, shaking with fear. Kalen's heart clenched. The snare was tight, too tight. The cub was running out of time. The lioness looked straight at him, not with the eyes of a predator, but with the eyes of a mother begging for the impossible. All right, I've got you," Kalen whispered. He slowly unbuckled his medical bag. Every sound made the lioness flinch. She stood over him, breathing hot air onto his neck, pupils wide with terror. Kalen had removed snares before, but never with a full-grown lioness hovering inches from his face. One wrong move and she could crush him, but she didn't. She watched. She trusted. Kalen placed his hands on the snare and began loosening the wire. The cub let out a tiny whimper. "It's okay, little one. Stay with me." The lioness nudged her cub softly, as if telling it to be brave. Seconds passed like hours. Kalen's fingers bled as the wire sliced them. But finally, snap, the snare released. The cub jerked, gasped, then cried out, not in pain, but in relief. It wobbled to its feet and climbed into its mother's chest. The lioness exhaled, the longest, deepest breath Kalen had ever heard. She began grooming her cub rapidly, her body shaking with overwhelming emotion. But then something unexpected happened. She looked at Kalen and bowed her head. A lioness, queen of the savannah, bowing to a human. It was respect. It was gratitude. It was a language older than words. Kalen stepped back slowly. He had done what he came for. But the lioness wasn't finished. She walked to him, pressed her forehead gently against his leg, and held it there, a gesture of pure trust. Kalen swallowed hard. Moments like this don't happen twice in a lifetime. With her cub limping beside her, the lioness retreated into the grass, glancing back once, a final silent thank you. Kalen stood alone in the sunrise, hands trembling, heart heavy. He had saved one life. But the truth hit him harder. This lioness had risked everything, approaching a man, exposing her cub, defying every instinct, because a mother's love is more powerful than fear. And sometimes, the wild doesn't need words to speak. Just courage and trust.